Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Going to call this meeting to order. This is the City of Gainesville Audit Committee, March 7th, 2022. Welcome all. We'd like to welcome our newest member, Commissioner Sacco, to the group. And with that, we need a motion to adopt our agenda.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Next order of business is approval of the minutes from the January 11th meeting. Were there any additions, corrections, or is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes from January 11th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes as well. All right, so our first discussion item today is the citywide gift card audit. And Ms. Bigby, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Mr. Monk, committee member. Brecca Anderson is going to present our gift card audit. So let me turn it over to Assistant City Auditor Brecca Anderson.
Ms. Anderson, welcome. Good to see you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Committee Member Monk. Thank you so much. We'd like to thank management for their assistance during our citywide gift card audit. And so our focus was to determine the level of control around gift cards from purchase to storage to distribution, reconciliation and monitoring, just the whole process. We looked into that for the whole city. During the audit, what we did is we contacted the departments and looked at other source documents to be able to identify any expenditures, any purchases for gift cards. Went out into the departments, retrieved their information and their controls, and just kind of did some tracking to see what type of internal controls we had in place there to account for those gift cards. During the audit, we identified 9 departments that purchased. Okay, so you know what? Let me go. If you could go ahead and move the slide to page 10, please. Thank you so much. Fantastic. All right. During the audit, we identified 9 departments that purchased and distributed gift cards for various purposes to employees and to the public during our audit scope period. The level and sufficiency of internal controls, what we saw that were in place, it varied by department throughout the city. So I'm going to go through the 9 departments that we looked at and kind of talk about what we found. The Utility Communications Department purchased 5 cards valued at $50 each, and the department distributed 3 of the cards to the public for the e-bill contest, and that was to sign up people to go electronic with their billing. And the department had sufficient controls in place to track the gift cards from purchase to distribution. The second department was Utility Customer Service Support. They purchased 1,012 gift cards. 974 of them were distributed for safety incentives, some were distributed for retirement and bereavement, and some were distributed for motivational activities. The recipient names were documented, but no signatures were obtained for 381 cards, and no recipient names were provided for 3 cards. And you can see that in the table if you have your copy. Maybe a little difficult to see there. I don't know if we can expand that a little bit. I'm not sure if it's going to make a difference. Yeah, it's a little small. Looks like ants a little bit on paper. But if you have your copy, and there are copies here on the table if you'd like to have your own copy.
You know what, Ms. Anderson, I bet we could zoom in with the dot cam
Okay.
on a paper copy. So, Madam Clerk, let me.
Okay. I have a copy.
You have
here,
one?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think
I have one here, Ginger. I have a color one. Thank you.
I think they could probably at least just get in on that table.
Okay. Yep, there you go.
Perfect.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. Great idea. All right, so if we look at our third department there, we have Energy Delivery. They purchased and distributed 8 cards for retirement and bereavement. The recipient names were documented, but no signatures were obtained for 7 of the cards. All right, and you can kind of see the dollar amounts associated with each one we're talking about there. Energy to Supply purchased 22 cards, and they issued 20 of the cards for Employee Safety Incentive Program. The recipient names were documented, but no signatures were obtained for 16 cards. And what you see with The safety incentive, you see it's usually valued between $10 and $40 per card. The bereavement cards are typically around $75. Retirement usually runs between $400 and $650. Okay? The next one is, as part of the gun buyback event, GPD purchased 233 gift cards. 183 were distributed. They were valued at between $100 and $300 each. GPD has sufficient controls in place to track those gift cards from purchase to distribution and reconciliation, the whole process. All right. The next one is GRUCOM. If you look at GRUCOM, they purchased 39 gift cards during our review period. 29 of the cards were distributed for employee safety incentives, valued at $25 to $100 each, and for marketing and promotion for $30. Recipient signatures were not obtained for one card, and no recipient name was provided for one card. Information technology is the next department. I purchased 9 gift cards, which were distributed for retirement, and recipient names were documented, but no signatures were obtained for the 9 cards. Okay, our next to the last department there is Parks and Rec, Cultural Affairs. They purchased and distributed 18 cards. Parks and Rec and Cultural Affairs had sufficient controls in place to track the gift cards from purchase to distribution to monitoring and so forth. Water Wastewater purchased 1,159 cards and distributed 1,198 cards because they already had some cards on hand which were outside the scope of our review, our purchase review. Okay, and they purchased those cards for safety incentives, retirement, holiday events, for a Drop Savers water conservation contest, if you remember that, and for customer damage replacement. All right. Recipient names were documented, but no signatures were obtained for 37 cards, and no recipient names were provided for 14 cards. Within these areas, there were 134 cards on hand, stored in locked drawers rather than in vaults. And overall, just speaking from the distribution, what we saw above, here on the table, we have 469 gift cards total. Were distributed. So as an added level of control of validation, we reached out to 30 recipients to validate that they received the gift cards. 2 respondents indicated that they did not receive the gift cards. Reconciliation and monitoring efforts were not in place for all the departments. It varied greatly. We also found that the city does not have a citywide policy or procedure governing gift card administration. It was kind of distributed out to the departments, and they did what they thought some of them did what they thought or knew to do. So that's where we were. But the controls were not adequate. All right. And also with this table, you'll note that on the audit report, we do have a revision. There are 2,505 total purchased. On the previous version of the audit report, we had 2,503, which is 2 extra. We did identify that the 2 transactions included 2 cards instead of 1 each after we issued the report. So that's the revision you'll see, and you'll also see where Commissioner Ward's name was blocked out from the text box, so we went back and fixed that as well. You'll see that in our revised report. Okay. So we do agree with management's action plan. All right. The city manager and general manager are developing a gift card policy. They're considering the need for gift cards for employees and for external parties. If they decide to continue the use of gift cards, the circumstances and guidelines will be selected and identified. Okay. And it kind of goes through to talk about the types of things such as policies and procedures will be put in place to govern those things. Okay, so I'd like to, also one last thing I do want to mention is that the action plan due date is out in December. And the reason for that is because finance is all hands on deck right now, working on the external financial statements. And they're going to need time to put those procedures and plans in place. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Bigby.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Ms. Bigby.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Mayor and audit committee members, We would like to recognize 3 of the 9 departments before we have Ms. Rasnick come up and speak about their action plan. Brecca, could you call out the 3 areas that actually followed best practices? So even though we're lacking a centralized policy right now, they didn't have any other exceptions during their testing. So we have created a new internal audit certificate to recognize audit departments in all of our audits going forward if a particular group follows best practice. So Ms. Anderson?
Excellent.
Yes, and we do have the invitees here. The 3 departments are here. First, I'd like to call up Chief Lonnie Scott from GPD. This was for the GPD Firearm Buyback Program. Thank you so much for having good internal controls. Can we give them a hand? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, the second was, Parks Rec, Cultural Affairs. We do have Leslie Layton-Dorff and Christy Mitchell here. Let's give them a hand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Last but not least, I'm not sure if David Warm or Rebecca Allison were able to attend.
Right there.
Yeah,
Yep.
here. Okay, fantastic. So we'd like to recognize them from GRU Communications. Controls. Thank you. Back to Ms. Bigby.
Thank you. Ms. Rasnick, did you want to come up and speak about the action plan?
So good afternoon, Claudia Rasnick, CFO for the utility and finance director at GRU, General Government right now. So I think I'm listed as the responsible party and the controller for utilities is the accountable party, or maybe I've got those backwards. But the city manager and the general manager are currently in discussions about what the policy should look like and what that means going forward, because a significant amount of the gift cards are for external programs such as the gun buyback, et cetera, but also for safety programs like in water and wastewater. And so there's other ramifications on how to implement that, whether you do those incentives through payroll and those sorts of things. So I think the deadline is in December as far as what that actually looks like. And I know that Ms. Curry and Mr. Cunningham are working very closely together to make sure that that citywide policy makes sense. What you can see in the results are a kind of a centralized policy at general government where the city manager approved all the gift cards, but at the utility it's been decentralized in a lot of the areas. So those are some of the things that we need to walk through. Thank you, Ms. Curry.
I'm just here to support.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you both. I'm just curious. I understand the time frame, and I understand what finance's priorities are right now. Would I be correct in assuming that between now and the formal adoption of the policy, there will be some effort to use best practices and sort of follow the lead of the 3 departments that were just recognized, so we can make sure that our risk level is as low as we can get it right now?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. We will do that. It won't take us until December. We just wanted to give ourselves the leeway there. But Mr. Cunningham and I met about this last week. We actually already have a team of people who are working on it. And so we'll be in good stead.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Members of the committee, any questions for Ms. Bigby or anybody else? You good? Okay. Well, thank you and congratulations. I like this new effort to positively acknowledge folks that are doing a fantastic job without, without which we wouldn't be as in good shape. So that was a nice addition, Ms. Bigby. So our action would be to forward this report to the full city commission and approve the recommendations that were presented.
So moved.
Okay, motion and a second. Any members of the public want to speak to this item? Adam, do we have you with us today? No? Oh, we have Marie.
Dial *9. If any members of the public are listening and would like to make a public comment and are calling in on the Zoom number, please dial *9 to raise your hand. We don't have anyone waiting currently.
Okay, we'll give a little time here for anybody that does want to call in. And the item that we're speaking about right now is the gift card audit. So if you'd like to speak to the gift card audit, the action by the committee is to accept the report and forward it to the city commission for their full consideration. I won't pull out my dad jokes feed, unless you all insist. All right, Ms. Kessler, I'll check with you one more time. We're good? Okay, back to the committee. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes. On to our next item, the 2021 Annual Report, Risk Assessment, and Audit Plan. Turn it back to Ms. Bigby. Thanks you all for being here today. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Mayor, Audit Committee members. Our annual report, Risk Assessment and Audit Plan, basically serves two purposes. First, to recap our audit activities for the year 2021, and secondly, to report results of our risk assessment efforts and any modifications to the audit plan. So I'm going to, Marie, if you could go to page 5, please. Very briefly, I'll just go over the completed audits and advisory services from the prior year. All of these items were presented in detail to the Audit Committee throughout the year. We completed the General Government Grant Administration consultation and provided some feedback. We completed the GRU Customer Billing System Phase 1 pre-implementation review and provided some feedback. We have on the audit plan the full GRU Customer Billing System audit later this year. Citywide succession planning audit is especially important with the current staffing issues all across the country, and here at the city is no exception. Police property and evidence cache audit. We have one audit issue still open from that audit. Administration and management of Evergreen Cemetery operations audit. Body-worn camera compliance audit. GRU badge access and physical keys management audit with confidential findings. Those findings are still open. And Ms. Anderson will give you a complete update on all audit issues in our next report coming up. We completed the general government internal controls over financial reporting audit and the Collier's contract compliance audit, which we reported to you in the January Audit Committee. The organizational culture assessment was one collaborative assessment that we started in March of 2021. We formed with leadership a core team and successfully developed an organizational culture assessment. The vendor provided some reports that are pretty interesting and showed the city really in general wants to move from a more controlling environment to a more collaborative environment. So we were then tasked, how are we going to get there? How are employees going to feel more involved and engaged? And how do we become more collaborative? So we came up with the 5 findings from the cultural assessment, 5 recommendations actually, and you'll receive an update on that progress today as well. The failings documentation review we completed, which was a management special request. The independent payroll recalculation of overtime hours was a special project based on complaints received in our office and related to the new ERP system implementation. So we compared the legacy system, the new ERP system, and the test environment with the collective bargaining agreements and how payroll is supposed to be calculated. So it wasn't perfect in the end, but we did identify a lot of corrections that were made while the ERP was still in testing. That was very helpful. The fraud risk management policy, we had no policy at the city addressing fraud specifically. So the fraud risk management policy helps to introduce the concept, what is fraud, what should management be doing about fraud, how do we have strong internal controls to prevent and to detect fraud, and then we can build on that in coming years. We still have yet to roll out a training program on the policy. It's a bit difficult to expect everyone to follow a new policy when you don't have training to go with it. So we actually have a project with the learning and development team in HR to develop a fraud risk management policy training. And we hope to have that available on demand by the end of this year. The GCRA Hotwood applicant selection was actually a randomization selection, so we used our audit tool to help them randomize all applicants. They started with the first 11 and they continued on until they had 11 qualified applicants. So we very carefully monitored that. And then I think that management team did a really great job maintaining the documentation that we gave them. So we did a spot check later on once all 11 applicants were qualified, and they followed everything to a T. So we were very happy about that. I think that's another certificate in the works there. We also completed the unsolicited proposal due diligence review. That was reported early January, and we don't have that in the report here, so we'll include that in our next year's report. The audit issue follow-up program, Brecca again will provide more detail about this in our quarterly update. But I did want to highlight some of the audits that have been closed because those audit issues have been remediated. So the Regional Transit System fare box was closed. The audit of GRU non-pension investments issues were closed. Annexed property fee collection audit. And due to turnover and lack of collaboration at the time, Ms. Anderson spent significant time over these processes, bringing groups together. Management was wonderful to work with, but there was just not that coordination before. There's a lot of moving pieces to that calculation. So Brecca ended up giving them a flow chart of all the moving pieces so they could keep perspective as things still change, people still change. Hopefully, they'll be able to keep this process going and make it sustainable. The vendor master file issue was closed. One caveat is that we're now in the new ERP system, so a lot of things have changed. Roles and responsibilities have changed, so we'll have to make sure that best practices are still being followed at a future time, perhaps end of this year or next year. The Reichert House Youth Academy, we worked pretty closely with GPD management in 2020 and into 2021 to close 4 of the 5 issues. The one issue that is still open is related to their management of grants, and there is nothing to test at the moment, so we'll keep it open until the Reichert House gets another grant, and we'll make sure that best practices are followed, and then we should be able to close that issue. The audit of general government non-pension investments was closed. Cybersecurity readiness review, confidential issues have been closed. However, that was an initial governance look at our cybersecurity program. So on our audit plan, you'll see we propose to have our next more detailed cybersecurity review this year. I would like to highlight the fraud, waste, and abuse hotline. We are happy that the city supports the hotline. So we have a vendor that manages the case management system. The vendor is Lighthouse. The certified fraud examiners issues a report to the nations every other year, and they have a government special edition. And they report that 43% of all frauds identified are through tip. And the number 1 way to receive tips is through the fraud hotline. Organizations that have a fraud hotline report substantially more tips, 48% versus 32% with no hotline at all. In 2021, we took on 21 cases through the hotline. We closed 20, and 1 case was still open at December 31st, 2021. We'll provide a current update in our next report coming up. We provided an annual training for the city commissioners, boards and committees, and city staff by hosting an ethics commission senior attorney that came down and presented, and it was so well received that we will bring them back again this year and maybe even lengthen the training. I guess 2 hours wasn't enough, so maybe we'll do the full 4 hours. The commissioners and staff really enjoyed being able to ask questions at that training. I think it's really important to have that 2-way conversation and talk about current events that impact our city leaders. We also have ethics training that fell in our laps, really. They had no one else to carry on with it. So Ms. Anderson stepped up and carried on the ethics training for supervisors. They will have more coming up, and she will continue to deliver that training. We are liaisons for the external audits, so we don't manage management or staff for the external audits, but we do manage the contract, and that's for independents, so that management, wouldn't be able to control the external auditor's contract or withhold payment or anything like that. So that's a standard practice. We have 2 external audits in progress right now, and we'll report that status in our next report coming up. The Florida Auditor General did issue their operational report for the City of Gainesville in early January, and we reported that in detail at the January 11th Audit Committee of this year. We are tracking the 18 findings, so management has only had a few weeks. We're going to work with management, Ms. Curry and Mr. Cunningham, on how we might like to present progress going forward. So starting at the June Audit Committee meeting in our quarterly update, we'll have some type of dashboard to show the progress towards closing out those issues. The City Commission has asked internal audit to give a quarterly update, so we will continue to do that until all 18 are closed. I use the word closed in a different meaning. We are not allowed to close the issues. Of course, the Auditor General is the only one that can say the issues are closed, but we can certainly, take a look at progress and see if this appears to be what we said we were going to do, and then we can report that, yes, we think we've completed that one. One important aspect of an independent and objective internal audit office is to have a quality assurance and improvement program. So the IIA requires that with their professional standards. We have work paper quality, which means every work paper that an auditor completes has to have 2 levels of management sign off. So that's why work papers take some time. We also have a customer satisfaction survey that goes out after every audit to the key management that worked on the audit. It's not anonymous, but I do keep it confidential, and I report the themes to the audit team in our monthly training. So if we see a suggestion for improvement, we then incorporate that and make whatever improvement we need. One of our recent items was being more clear about what audit is. Someone said they didn't understand what fieldwork meant. So we think we communicate that, but we don't always use those terms. So we enhanced our kickoff meeting template to have definitions of those processes, and we make sure that we explain all of that in the kickoff meeting. We also have that in our status update. We have an audit flow in our status update, but by then you're already in field work. So far that seems to be working, but that's what the whole customer satisfaction survey is all about. Did they have pain points in how we communicated with them? Did they feel like we listened to them? Did we give them timely communication? So that's really helpful. And I think in the next annual report, now that we have a few under our belts, we can give you a report or some kind of tracker of what those process improvements were. I think that would be helpful. The third aspect of the quality assurance and improvement program is a peer review. So the government auditing standards requires a peer review every 3 years, and the Red Book requires a peer review every 5 years. This year, we have asked for an Orange Book review because we follow both sets of standards, and we are scheduled to have that peer review at the end of this year or early next year, and it will go through the end of November 30th of this year. All right. On page 16, please, Marie. This was an interesting survey. It took very little of our time, but we sent out a survey request to local government audit executives. We replied to maybe 2 or 3 per year, so this time we sent one. We wanted to ask about how other local governments, internal audit shops assess risk. How do they incorporate risk or monitor risk in their organizations? And we sent out 25 requests, 17 responded. And it turns out that those folks that either follow the IIA standards or incorporate them into their Yellow Book practices, seem to do much more robust job, I should say, of monitoring risks in their organization and feeling like they have more successful outcomes because of that. So that's what we were hoping for, didn't know quite what to expect when we embarked on this. And so I think we're on the right track of bringing some of that private sector risk management experience into our audit shop and making sure we're talking about risk. The IIA expects us to understand operational risk management in the city and to support it where it's lacking. So I think you'll see that in ethics and in enterprise IT governance. It's really important that those conversations continue and we develop governance in those areas. At the bottom of page 16, which is also on the slide, team building. We don't have a full day actually for team building, but we took a partial day to do some tours of the city and play a few games, talk audit shop. So our team does that once a year. This year we went to Sweetwater Wetlands and had a tour by park rangers. Some people have been with the city for a long time and have not even been to Sweetwater yet. So it's an amazing place. We really enjoyed it. And it was more of an academic tour. We really enjoyed learning about the ecology of that area. We also had a docent-led tour of the Thomas Center. So I had never had a tour of the Thomas Center. That's where we had our lunch, and then we came back to work. So we think at least taking a partial time once a year for that team building is really important. Just to mention that our professional development, we have CPAs, CIAs, certified information systems auditors, CISSP, certified fraud examiners on the team. We all have to maintain our professional credentials. Internal audit, regardless of your credentials, requires 40 hours per year of continuing professional education. We had a couple of virtual conferences last year that we attended, so this year we're going to divide and conquer. We're participating in utility accounting training, utility accounting conference, local Association of Local Governments conference. We don't have the FICPA on the agenda yet, but perhaps in a future year that will be a good one. In our report, I won't go through each of these, but starting on page 18, we like to highlight other stories that help to make the city of Gainesville great, and we enjoy including them in our annual report. So we selected a couple, we got a couple of ideas from communications. So when you have time, if you could take a look at pages 18 through 20, that's where we highlight some other happenings in the city. If there are no questions on section 1, I'd like to jump into section 2, the enterprise risk assessment and audit plan.
Members of the committee, ready to move on or have any questions? Move on, all right.
Okay.
Please, thank you.
All right, Marie, I think a good landing place for us would be for now on page 22. So every other year, we put more effort into our enterprise risk assessment because it's extremely resource intensive. So last year, in 2020, we took 3 months to interview staff, senior leadership, city commissioners. This year, we called it a refresh. So we had some interviews. We also sent out a short survey, and we got some responses back from that. We incorporate those responses and that information with feedback from types of hotline complaints that we're getting, feedback from management in other ways, our audit reports, what we're seeing in our audits. Sometimes we see things that are not related to the scope of the audit. We'll track it in our risk assessment and informal tracking mechanism that we have. We add all of that together. We have to come up with some judgmental way of weighting that. And then we determine what needs to be audited. So we take a risk-based audit approach based on what we think are highest risk areas. And that's what our discussions are about. What do you think are highest risk areas? We can't cover all of our moderate and high risk areas. We have a lot to cover here at the city. So we have 12 to 18 months of items on the audit plan already. I'd like to talk a little bit about the micro and macro risk factors, and then we'll jump right into the audit plan, and that will go pretty quickly. We're asking for just a few changes. So some of the micro risk factors are starting on page 23. From the feedback we got from city staff, staffing and talent management as one bucket was by far the leading risk that everyone was communicating. So that could be with hiring and retaining, and it's really making a significant impact on the city. So we have to be cognizant of that as we develop our programs. And as we have new programs, what does internal audit need to audit to help with this? Right now, our succession planning audit still has open audit issues, so we're not proposing to do anything more right at the moment. But as that changes throughout the year, then we can certainly ask to have something added to the audit plan. We just want to make sure management is addressing this. We also have a new HR director that will be taking on a new role, so she'll need time to, get things going. The number 2 risk communicated from staff is cybersecurity. So everyone, I think this is in part to the good job that IT is doing on communicating cybersecurity risk. They've started awareness programs. They send training through email. But folks all across the city are saying that they are worried about our cybersecurity risk. So we have added the next phase of our cybersecurity audit to the audit plan that we're asking you to approve today. The first audit was a governance audit. Now we want to take a deeper dive. We've talked to the IT folks, and they are all on board with that. Other risks that were communicated that we also agree with are data management, public records management, and infrastructure. Data management pretty much falls into the enterprise IT governance. It touches a lot. And as we mature, I think, in our IT governance, that includes data management best practices. Public records management, we actually added an audit to the audit plan that we're asking for approval today. We have a pretty good policy, but we don't have any way of monitoring compliance. I'm not sure if training is up to par, so we'll review all of those things. Infrastructure, we do have an audit touching on that on the audit plan. The utilities debt defeasance program and capital plan are top of management priorities. We don't have a specific audit on the audit plan, but we'll continue to monitor that. In general, the city is moving toward a data-driven culture. We wanted to highlight that because that's really important. To make the best quality decision-making, it needs to be data-informed decision-making. We have to make sure that data is accessible, it's accurate, and it should be cost-effective to make that accessible. Macro risk factors. We took a look at a few internal audit focused publications to see what they are saying are the highest risks in the country. One of them is the IIA's Institute of Internal Auditors On Risk 2022 report. And no surprise, they reported cybersecurity and talent management as their top risk buckets. They also included organizational governance, data privacy, culture, economic and political volatility, change in regulatory environment, and supplier and vendor management as their top risks across the country. KPMG has an internal audit key risk guide that lists the following areas as the 2021 top risks. Crisis management and operational resilience. Number 2, staff well-being and talent management. Fraud and exploitation of operational disruption. Climate change. Third-party and supply chain management. And cybersecurity and privacy. And also culture. So we can see some themes there that resonate with what we actually collected from our own staff. I did want to highlight the U.S. state privacy legislation tracker.
Florida used to be really trailing, and now they're getting in the game. So I was so excited to see that. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. That impacts our public records and our ability to protect confidential information. And then on page 25, still talking about privacy in the state of Florida. The state of Florida ranks as the 11th highest per capita in reported incidents of identity theft. And Gainesville metro area was right up there in one of the top areas. So that's not a city of Gainesville issue, but just wanted folks to be aware. The American Public Power Association has a nice description about how they define public power. And the city has significant risk exposure related to our utility because of the complex nature of providing public utility services. But some of the benefits of public utility service are accountability and transparency in governance, financial support for the local government, more efficient municipal operations, the ability to tailor utility policies, programs, and practices to serve the priorities of the local community, and the value of ownership. We also mentioned the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is an operational component of the Department of Homeland Security. They have done a really great job communicating with public and private sector and coordinating cooperation between these various stakeholder groups. As they have seen stepped up cybersecurity activity with the Ukraine situation and the war on Ukraine, they advise the city when they want us to participate or want us to be aware of tools that they share. So we are very happy to be plugged into that source of information and source of support. Then a quick mention of the America Competes Act of 2022. It's passed the House, so next stop is the Senate. There could be some impact on cybersecurity and privacy risk, and risk between collaborative partnerships and local government. And then there could also be some labor impacts from that legislation. So that's something we should monitor. Okay. Then for the internal audit plan, which are listed on the rest of the pages, basically on page 27, what we are asking the audit committee to approve is the addition of 4 audits. The Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles Internal Control and Data Security Compliance Audit is requested by management, and it is a required audit that the city has to complete every 2 years. So by us providing that service, they don't have to go out and hire another firm to provide the same compliance audit. I would like to take a moment to introduce our new IT audit manager, Ryan Timmons.
Look, Mr. Timmons.
He'll
Welcome aboard.
introduce himself real quick, and he's going to manage this compliance audit.
Great. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Committee Member Monk. I'm going to be doing the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles Audit, and essentially what we're doing is we're ensuring that we're complying with the state of Florida's data exchange internal controls with the city. We're currently in the planning phase of this audit. We sent out the engagement email on the 18th of February, and we will meet this week to have the engagement meeting for that. We will have that audit report issued before August 31st in agreement with the memorandum of understanding with the state.
All right. Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
We are also asking for the General Government Finance Indirect Cost Allocation Attestation. Management requested us perform this review annually for now, and the Auditor General also accepted that as an action plan for one of their findings. That should not be too resource intensive. We are requesting an ARPA reporting compliance audit. We have to expend the funds by 2026, and we want to make sure that management and our subrecipients have all of their documentation and controls in order, so we don't have any surprises. And then lastly, the G5 Public Records Policy Compliance Audit. The city clerk's office is happy to have us do this audit and help them out in implementing compliance with the G5 policy. So we'll review the policy itself, compliance with policy, and training. Then finally, there's the addition of the 4 audits. We're requesting approval and the removal of 1. The one to remove is the GPD equity and staff retention. The reason why we're asking to remove that is because the Office of Equity and Inclusion is doing a similar type of work, but across the whole city. So we're going to let them run with the program, save some hours on this project, and allocate them towards the additional 4 that we're adding.
If you'll pause for a question.
Yes.
Oh, never mind. Never mind. Please keep going.
Okay. That wraps it up. I just wanted to give some links. So the first 2 proposed audits are added on page 28 of your report. The second 2 are on page 29. They're marked as new. And then the 5th one that we propose removing is on page 31. And that wraps up our annual report.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Bigby. And I just want to repeat what you said, but it's not that we're not going to do the work of the equity and hiring issue with GPD. It's just being done through Office of Equity and Inclusion as part of a larger project, not specifically by the auditor's office.
Yes, thank you. And we'll continue to track that as a risk. We'll see how that all develops.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Sacco.
Mr. Mayor, unless anybody has anything, I have a motion.
Go ahead.
I move that we approve and recommend to the City Commission the city auditor's report and change it to add the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles Internal Control and Data Security Compliance Audit, General Government Finance Indirect Cost Allocation Attestation, ARPA Reporting Compliance, the G5 Public Records Policy Compliance, and that we remove the GPD Equity in Staff Retention Process Review.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, motion is second to accept the report as well as amend the audit plan to include those 5 items, 4 additions and 1 subtraction. So with that, we'll invite any members of the public up to speak to this item if they so choose. Anybody here in chambers? Sure.
I might have missed this.
Well, hold on one sec. We're going to need you at the mic just because people are watching this at home and they won't be able to hear you. And we'll just ask, of course, that you introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Welcome.
Mayor, committee. My name is James Gardner, and I live in District 3. I might have missed this, but under the things that we were going to go over today was the body-worn camera compliance audit, and I really didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, so
And-
that's, I believe, Ms. Bigby in the next item, correct? This was the look back at our last year's audits.
Exactly. And so I have the body-worn camera compliance audit from November 17th of 2021, so that's fairly recent.
It is, except that is in this current fiscal year. The report we just received was from the previous fiscal year. That
So
changes
you're
over
saying
in
that was from
October.
2020?
It changes over in October. Ms. Bigby, you want to address that?
Sure, thank you. So we weren't going over the audit in full because we've already presented it, but Ms. Anderson at the next report coming up here momentarily will speak to all of the open audit issues. Is that what you're hoping?
Okay, so dealing with that, then I have one further question that maybe somebody can answer, and possibly not, maybe it's due for another time. But the management action plan from this particular one mentions things that were from the past, and one of them was the establishing an implementation plan and ensure supervisor review of body-worn camera recordings and being conducted in that state. The due date for full implementation of the program was January 1st of 2022. Has that program been?
Yes, sir, that's coming up in our next report, so you'll get the full status of those.
Okay, so you're telling me now that you have fully implemented that program?
Ms. Anderson will report
Yeah.
on that in the quarterly update. Just
Yeah, which is the next item on the agenda, is what we're saying. We're going to address those things in the next item on the agenda.
Okay,
And then if you have any questions afterwards, I'd be happy to provide any additional detail.
okay. And also for the February 28th, 22 deadline?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Kessler, do you have anybody with their hand up? Okay. Then we will turn back to the commission, and all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all for the annual report, and we really appreciate that. And up next, we will then move to our quarterly update. Go ahead, Ms. Anderson. You're at the ready.
Sure, no problem. Good afternoon again, Brecca Anderson, Assistant City Auditor, Mayor Pro Tem, Committee Member Monk. Okay, each quarter, internal audit provides a quarterly update of activities that occur within the internal audit department, the areas that we review. We give the status of follow-up items in just multiple areas with that of occurrences that happen throughout that quarter. Okay? All right. So we do have an overhead for that, Marie. It has Audit Committee on the front. It's the quarterly update. I can do the overhead if we're having some challenges. Okay. First, one moment.
I think we've got it covered.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. The first area we're going to talk about is our work in progress. Okay, you've just received an update from Ryan Timmons, IT Audit Manager for the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles Compliance Audit. He just provided that update a moment ago with Ms. Bigby. Okay. But the information and details for which he was referring is on page 5. Okay, page 6 is the GCRA project and fiscal management audit. All right. We are in the midst of that audit. We're looking at compliance with agreements, laws, rules, and regulations for the GCRA. We're looking at controls around project management. That's the whole phase from planning to completion. We're looking at all of that. We're also looking at fiscal management. That means movement of funds, projects for which the funds are applied. We're going to take a holistic approach of that. We just finished the planning on last week, and we just started field work on last week. So we're getting started with the field work in that project. And we're going to be looking at compliance with the 10-year plan. Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask Ryan Timmons to come up to talk about the ERP, User Access Management Audit.
Mr. Timmons, welcome back.
Good afternoon. So we have Mr. Michael Sandstrom attending virtually with Purvis Gray. They're the ones doing the work for this audit, so I guess I will turn it over to him.
Madam Clerk, are we able to do that?
Just technical.
Mr. Sandstrom, could you unmute yourself?
Yes.
I'll forward the slide.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well,
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity today to report briefly on our progress regarding Purvis Gray's review of the city's IT general controls and IT application controls. As required by the auditing standards, our review consists of obtaining an understanding of the IT application controls as they relate to internal controls over financial reporting. We noted that in the fourth quarter of 2021 fiscal year, the city implemented deployed Workday, a cloud-based human capital and financial management application, to replace its existing finance and HR applications. Therefore, we've included in our procedures a review of the various Workday business process configurations and related control configurations. In addition, the city's internal audit department requested our assistance to aid them in determining which sets of users have the capability to view certain kinds of sensitive information that is stored in Workday. And you can see here in a slide examples of sensitive data that's been identified as employee tax IDs, supplier tax ID, and settlement account information, city settlement account numbers. We're also looking at the various business process controls that we've identified and are reviewing, though not limited to. And if you maybe kind of go to the next slide there. There we go, thank you. Time entry, HR and payroll processes, requests for changes in compensation, change job processes, procurement and requisition processes, supplier setup and maintenance processes, and also, that's not on the slide there, we'll be looking at revenue and collections. Our review of the business processes consists of analyzing the various Workday implementations for enforcement of segregation of duties, workflow authorization controls, and reviewing the security and role-based group membership for alignment with our understanding of the city's policies and procedures. In addition, we are determining which security groups and users assigned to those groups have the capability of viewing or accessing the sensitive data previously mentioned. Our procedure will include also reviewing the current documentation. So if we look at some of the comments and recommendations that will be focused around on the next slide, I think. Yeah, there we go. Focus on, I'm sorry, go back to, there we go, thank you. Focus on security group membership, especially who can view those sensitive information and access to information. We'll be looking at the Workday business process. We'll have some comments and recommendation around the roles and task reviews and user access reviews, alignment with city policies and procedures, and if there's room for any improvement in the documentation. So, of course, our review is still in progress, but we've made substantial headway. At the conclusion of our review, we will provide a report to city management presenting our comments and recommendations.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to our periodic monitoring section. As Ms. Bibby mentioned earlier, we've been pushing to have a more mature enterprise IT governance program. We met with the Enterprise IT Government Committee on February 16th, and after that discussion, we identified 3 potential areas we could use for improvement. One is we identified doing the cybersecurity phase 2 audit this year to assess the current procedures and policies that they have in place. We also want to look at the policies governing the use of surveillance technology from the non-law enforcement perspective, and also look at a citywide data privacy and data protection program. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bigby.
Thank you, Mr. Timmons. Our next slide is an update on the cultural assessment, and I believe we have Ms. Gretz here to speak to some of the items, or Ms. Griffith. Okay, combination. So Ms. Griffith and Ms. Gretz will speak to numbers 2 through 5. We have marked number 1, the policy research workflow, as completed because that process was enhanced in prior months.
So good afternoon, Mayor and members of the committee. My name is Laura Gretz. I'm the acting HR director. Happy to be with you this afternoon. There's a team approach to giving you the updates on number 2 through 5, so I'll kick it off. So number 2 is around leadership training. There have been 3 potential executive leadership coaches that have been identified, and we're in the process of vetting and interviewing them and creating a process for which their services will be made available. So we're looking forward to moving forward with that. Mr. Hefner is here for number 3. And I'll finish mine, I guess, and then we'll pop you in for 3. Is that good? Okay. And then I will speak to number 4, which is around internal conflict resolution. So we did have 5 employees that became certified trainers in conflict resolution, and we are currently working with them to gain their availability and launch classes available to all city employees beginning Q3 of this fiscal year. We're also working in-house to take a look at the processes that we have available for employees to pursue if there is a conflict that they can't readily solve themselves, outlining what that is and then promoting that to the city population. And I think that covers mine, so I'll let Mr. Hefner come up for number 3.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and committee member. I'm Scott Hefner, Human Resources Department. I'm speaking to number 3, Policy Management Framework. So this was one of the recommendations. Way back in December, the city manager gave direction and is guiding us on convening a policy group, and that group already met once. We're going to continue to meet on a weekly basis, ideally. And the idea is that we will discuss options for a global one city policy framework and provide recommendations to our leaders, and at some point formalize what that framework will look like in a policy or administrative procedure. And from that point, we would just commence work on any priority items and maintenance matters. That's where we are right now, a little bit early in the process, but we are making progress. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I have a question. I'm just going to jump in here. Probably, Ms. Bigby, you can answer this, or maybe Ms. Gretz. I know that there's a open referral to our policy research team to bring back some information about a city ombudsman, and I know that we've had some conversations about that. Has there been coordination between that effort and the recommendations and sort of progress here on this page, especially with the internal conflict resolution element?
Mayor Pro Tem and Committee Member Monk, not that I'm aware of. If it's working through the policy research workflow, the enhancement was that there's a couple of areas where now we have other stakeholders coming in to speak to the issue, identify funding sources, making sure legal has a chance to take a look at it, making sure that risk is properly assessed. So all those things would happen if it goes through the research policy flow. So if GPC is interested in that topic, it will continue through the enhanced process.
Okay. So, Madam Clerk, I just want to make sure that there's so there was and we have Mr. Fulston too, who is probably here in his previous role, remembers this, but there was sort of a older referral, and then I brought it kind of back up maybe 2 months ago. And so Morgan's, dealing with that now. And there's sort of 2 elements. I mean, there's the internal conflict resolution, and then there's also the, folks who don't work for the city but are part of our community are having conflict or issues with any part of our organization, that they have a sort of route that they can go through as well. So I see this as a high priority. I think as we work to strengthen the organization, make it more responsive, part of it is healing, part of it is building back stronger, that we could be well served by a dedicated person in that position. So anyway, I would hope we can have a deeper discussion about that sooner rather than later, so we can make a decision. Okay, back to you, I guess, for the fun stuff.
Thank you. Ms. Griffith?
Bobby Griffith, Chief of Staff, to address the number 5 on employee suggestions. So the Department of Strategy, Planning, and Innovation will take the lead and create a process for employees to submit suggestions for process improvement. We hope to have that update for you at the next quarterly meeting. We've had a lot of staffing limitations as of late, so we're working on it, but I don't have a substantive update today.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Anderson, I think we're ready to move on.
Okay, continuing on. Let's go to page 14, please. Brecca Anderson, Assistant City Auditor. I think you guys know who I am. All right, save the date. Okay. We'd like to just, we're just excited. With the team, which is our employee housed committee who helps plan and encourage our teams here at the city, is excited to announce the upcoming annual employee rally. It's planned for April 13th to show appreciation for all city staff. So mark your calendars, come on out and enjoy some great food and meet some coworkers is what it's saying there. It's pretty exciting. More information is coming on that. All right. All right, so now we're going to audit follow-up, audit issue follow-up. Yes, thank you. All right. Get my document. Okay, if you could go to, that's our handy dandy chart there you guys are used to seeing. If you can go to the next page, please. It kind of shows our process flow there. Okay, on page 17. Okay, internal audit has been working with management and keeping management abreast of the status of open audit issues, some friendly touch bases and conversations. We meet with management and just let management know, remind them of the due date for each open audit issue. Since last quarter, we did report in November. Management has successfully closed 6 audit issues, as you'll see there in the row with March 7th, which is today's date. Okay, there are 9 open audit issues as of the date. That's not including the one from the gift card, excuse me. And they can all be found in Appendix A if you'd like to see them listed. Okay, and then we do have 3 audit issues that are in progress. If you could go down, please, to the next page. These 3 audit issues are related to the body-worn camera compliance audit. We have received documentation from management. However, we are still in the process of validating the information. So it's open because we are going through our validation process. Okay?
Ms. Anderson, can
Yes.
I elaborate on what that means?
Sure.
So when management says that they have remediated an audit issue, that's not the end of the story. They have to provide us evidence. Well, depending on what that evidence is, it might require an auditor to go view something in a system or to review data that was provided. So that process is called validation. We also are understaffed, so that requires us to allocate resources. So we often would get evidence provided to us. It might take a month if we are extremely understaffed to validate the issues. Sometimes we can do it the next day. So the body-worn camera evidence was provided within the last several weeks. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we have it. We haven't tested it, so we can't say the issue is closed until we carefully review and validate the information and say, yep, that risk was truly fully remediated according to the action plan.
Thank you. Okay, if we could go back up to the chart, please. Okay, if you see there in the last one in the box is the past due audit issues. We do have 5 for this quarter. If you could skip 2 pages, please. I'm going to talk about the 5 past due audit issues. Okay. Management is working to address the risks surrounding these audit issues. We've been connecting and talking with management throughout the process, and they are working on these audit issues. The first one is the citywide succession planning audit. There are 2 past due audit issues for this report. The first one is related to the policy for the succession plan, which that policy has been drafted. It just hasn't been approved, gone through the process. And so the program has not been The program has been developed, but it has not been rolled out to management or monitored, which is part of the action plan. I know Ms. Bigby spoke about that earlier. Okay. And then the GPD, property and evidence cache. Management has successfully implemented 3 audit issues from this report. However, one audit issue is past due. There is a cash handling policy in place, and this is, I failed to mention that the succession planning is, responsible party is human resources. GPD, property and evidence cache, responsible parties are finance and GPD. Okay, so there is a cash handling policy in place. However, management is still working to fully implement the action plan. Okay, so management is working to address these, as I said. Bobby Griffith, Executive Chief of Staff, has been appointed liaison by the City Manager's Office. Ms. Griffith, do you have any comments? Would you like to speak to this matter? Okay. She's here, she's supporting. Okay. Okay, so the last 2 past due audit issues are related to the Office of Equity and Inclusion, it's Office of Equity, Inclusion, and HR. They've prepared, OEI, I keep using that acronym, has prepared the affirmative action hiring goals, the first one since 2017, if I'm correct, with the assistance of a consultant. The new hiring goals have not been communicated to management. Periodic reviews of the goals have not occurred. All right, the other 2 audit issues related to affirmative action plan have been closed. Management is working to fully implement these past due audit issues, action plans, Zariah Folston, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, is here to speak to the audit issues.
Mr. Folston, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Vice Mayor Sacco. And it's good to see you again, Mr. Monk. You may not remember me. I met you years ago through Randall Reed over at the county. So it's good to see you here today. I want to speak to the audit issues. As she stated, we had a couple of them upon my being appointed to this position that we've been able to resolve. This is one that we have been working collaboratively with HR, so I'm so appreciative of them in helping us resolve. And we look forward to bringing back a plan of how we can communicate the hiring goals to the city at large so that everybody's aware, especially our supervisors, our managers, even the charter officers. So we're appreciative of the work that has been done already with Ms. Anderson, and we look forward to the collaboration between HR and ourselves as we move forward in this process. But I wanted to speak to that today to tell them thank you and to let you know that we're working on and we'll be coming back with a resolution.
Okay, you know the question that I have to ask, right?
Sure.
When do you think that this can be resolved? What's your goal or your expectation?
Our expectations are in the next 3 weeks in terms of us putting together a plan to educate staff on what the hiring goals are, because we want to make sure that we do it in a systematic way and that I get the support of my charter colleagues so they're aware of what we're proposing to do. And then the post-hire analysis is something that we're looking to work along with HR and collaborate with. But I want to give Ms. Gress opportunity for her and I to speak before I speak to that publicly.
Sure. So presumably by our next quarterly update?
Yes, especially on the part about us educating the staff in terms of what the hiring goals are.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Folston. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, if we can go to page 21. Fraud hotline and investigations. Okay, this is the activity. Of course, we don't speak to the actual specifics of the hotline and investigation results.
I'm sorry, Ms. Anderson.
Sure.
Did we kind of skip over the property and evidence cash audit issue?
I did. Did I? Okay. Let me see. I spoke to it, but I could be more specific.
Yeah.
You like me to?
Well,
Sure.
Again, I was curious about a time frame on that, what we can expect as far as that being resolved and closed.
It's management. I'd like to defer to
Sure.
management for that.
Thank you, Chief Scott.
Welcome, Mayor. We are in the final stage of it. We have all the plans laid out. The primary issue that we have right now is one of implementation and providing that verification to audit. And we, from my understanding, my last meeting with the project manager for that, it was all taken care of. We have that last hurdle done, and within the next week or two, they should be getting verification that we've completed that pass.
Okay, so by the next quarterly, we should see that
Absolutely.
resolved. Okay, very
Absolutely.
good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Yes, I'd also like to speak that it is not only GPD is finance, a portion of this action plan is finance as well. There have been several improvements made at GPD with our processes, and GPD and finance work together for a couple of months, for a few months to get things together. So I think just with the changes that's happening right now in the transition period, just trying to get some of those things worked out is where we are.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, let's move to the next. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. We were at the fraud hotline, I think. Yes. So we have had 5 new cases since last Audit and Finance Committee. And then we have 3 investigations open and 2 have been closed. Okay, we can go to the next. Thank you. External audits, I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Bigby. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. For the state of Florida operational audit, we have the 18 findings. We have listed them on these 2 slides. We just got the findings in January. So we're going to work with the interim city manager and the interim general manager on how we can best track these for reporting to you all, what the status update is. I'm thinking something that looks like a dashboard that shows progress toward completion. So starting in June, we'll have our first progress report on the 18 findings.
Great.
We left this empty. We were preparing to update it. We will put any findings that result from the Purvis Gray external financial statement audit. There was a delay this year, but it's all for good reasons. The utility finance team led by Ms. Rasnick is coming over to help general government finance while they're doing the hiring. There was significant work to be done, and I don't understate the word significant. Claudia's folks and Claudia herself are working overtime trying to get things up and running, and they're working with a consultant. So all things good are going to come out of this, but the external financial statement report, is going to be later this year, and there are going to be findings again. So this will be the 4th year of some repeat findings. We have expected that. We know that some of the findings may even extend into the fiscal year 22 audit. We're hoping that we will remediate things in time, but we've been warned that perhaps the bank reconciliation will still be on that report as well, because part of the year fell into 2022. So by June, well, let me just ask Ms. Rasnick, no day, okay. They are making progress, so we will have a better idea at the June Audit Committee, which is in mid-June, when the financial statement audit report will be reported.
Okay, thank you.
Then the Baker Tilly utility financial statement audit is in progress, I believe, the end of March. Ms. Rasnick will come up and give you a quick update.
So regarding general government, from what we are seeing right now, it looks like September by the time that audit is issued for general government for the ACFR. For GRU, it'll be issued by the March deadline, so we'll be back at the April audit committee meeting to actually go over that, so that one will be issued on time per the bond covenants. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rasnick. And we have scheduled an April Audit Committee meeting, I believe April 20th, for you to hear the presentation of the Baker Tilly financial report, the utility external financial statement audit. And that wraps it up for the quarterly update. If you have any questions.
Okay, questions from the committee? Obviously frustrated about the external audit, but totally understand where we are and also have confidence that the steps are being taken to correct that once and for all, and hopefully next year is a different year. So thank you, Ms. Rasnick, for all the support you're giving to address that, you and your team. It's been a frustrating couple of years, for sure. All right, so there's a recommendation to approve and recommend this report for the full commission's consideration. Sure.
I move that we approve and recommend the report to the city commission.
Okay. Motion is second. We will now open it up to members of the public that wish to speak to the quarterly report. Mr. Gardner, go ahead.
Afternoon. James Gardner, District 3. All right, so I've heard so far that we have this stuff that's been going on. So how long this has been going on is a year and 5 months. So the fact that you would have had by the rules of engagement in this sort of thing, you would be required to have policy and procedure in place, including training prior to the implementation of a new program. Now, I know that you bought brand new body-worn cameras. You're on the Exxon 3s now. And that system is an extremely detailed, complicated system. It's ripe for inappropriate things going on that we've already seen in our prior audits of the program, such as supervisory review. Supervisors right now are required by GPD policy and procedure to review body-worn cameras and don't misunderstand me here, I'm not talking about what's happened on the body-worn cameras. We're talking about administrative rules and policies. So they are required right now every month to review 2. So this has been in place for a year and 5 months, and they've been supposed to be doing this before they implemented it. So where's the record of their supervisory review every month? So we'd like to see those. Farther, I'm going to read one thing from here. Under their risk assessment, failure to ensure that all GPD members who use body-worn cameras and their supervisors are properly trained in their use could result in the loss of accreditation from the Commission of Accreditation for Law Enforcement, CALEA, which is a big deal. Additionally, improperly trained body-worn camera users increase the risk of inappropriate police activity going undetected, which could result in a loss of reputation for the department, as well as an increasing likelihood of citizen complaints and lawsuits, leading to a financial burden on GPD in the city. You guys need to get your act together on this.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody with their hand up? No? Okay, I think Chief Scott would be happy to speak with you afterwards about the specifics of that, if you'd like. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed? That motion passes. All right, up next we have general public comment. If you'd like to make any comments about anything that's not on today's agenda, you're welcome to do so at this time. Anybody? Madam Clerk? Everybody with their hand up? Okay, any member comment?
This wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be.
This was great, is what you meant to say. This is a phenomenal experience. Okay, our next meeting will then be April 20th. We will receive that Baker-Tilly Act and get Baker-Tilly. There must be a Baker-Tilly Act somewhere in American history that I'm remembering. The Baker-Tilly audit report and anything else that we need to be in June at our June audit committee meeting. Thank you, everybody, for the work that went into this today. We really appreciate it. And seeing no further business before us, we are adjourned.